When I first started She Fascinates Me, I was very clear about one thing. I didn't want it to feel like The Julie Show. I genuinely love hosting conversations, learning from women, and putting the focus on their stories, and that will always be the heart of this podcast. But as the show grew, and with guidance from people advising me in PR, social media strategy, and of course my producer, it became clear that part of what makes a podcast successful is allowing listeners to get to know the host too. Not because the spotlight shifts, but because it adds context to the conversations. That might be part of why the show resonated in its first season and landed in the top 20% of video podcasts on Spotify. And I want to pause here to say thank you. That milestone is truly because of you. Your listening, your sharing, your messages, and your encouragement. I'm so grateful for the support that this community has shown from the very beginning. So, as we open season 2, we decided to do something a little different. I handed the mic to my husband, Justin. Being on the other side of the questions was definitely an interesting experience, especially with him behind the mic. He put a lot of thought into the questions he asked and into how he framed me as your host. He's been my biggest cheerleader throughout this process and such a great sounding board along the way, so it felt like a natural choice for this conversation. My hope is that if you already know me, this gives you a little more insight into why these conversations matter so much to me. And if you're newer here, it's a chance to understand the perspective that I bring into every episode. And I promise we're not going to make a habit of this. The focus is always going to remain where it belongs, on the fascinating women and stories yet to come.
Well, welcome to She Fascinates Me. I'm your guest host, Justin Silver. Very excited to be here with my wife, Julie. I am the guest and not going to be here more than this one event that we're doing, but I do appreciate you letting me host your podcast.
Well, I'm a little nervous, I have to say, even though we've been together for 24 years, so be nice.
I will be nice, but you dดtell me I have complete amnesty to ask any questions I want.
Yes,
and that I do have amnesty, right?
You
okay.
do. You do.
Because we're going to get into some of the questions and things that probably I've wanted to know for 24 years. I think most husbands would love to have this opportunity to really be able to ask the things that they've been thinking about. So
oh my gosh.
Hopefully others appreciate it, but this is really for me.
This is going to be fun.
It's
okay.
Be a lot of
well,
fun.
I mean, I thought when I started this podcast, I really didn't want any focus on me. That's not how I like to roll, but I've been told it's important as a new podcaster. People want to get to know the host, fine. So it was encouraged, and actually my friend who's in PR said it would be a really good idea to have you talk to me. And so I guess if the experts in PR out there are saying that this is necessary, that might be one of the only reasons why I said
why
this.
you did it. Well, you are fascinating to me, so
oh, gosh.
I think you'll be fascinating to others. But maybe let's start. And the first thing maybe we could talk about is how we met, because this is a husband and wife interview. So I think we have a really interesting story, and didn't start maybe the way that most relationships start.
Well, I remember you came into the antique store, and it was a retail environment, so there would be a lot of people who would come through on any given day. And I was running the antique store by myself because at the time my parents were on a buying trip in France, and in came you. I think you were wearing a ball cap and
I was.
sweats.
Yeah, I don't think I had shaved. I had just gotten back from New Orleans.
Yeah. And I think you said you were looking for a Persian rug, a vintage Persian rug, and we didn't sell them, but I showed you some other things that we had.
Yeah.
And you remember that I showed you a very expensive telescope.
I do, which I could not afford, but I pretended like I could actually afford it.
It was huge.
It was huge.
Do you remember how big that telescope was?
I do remember.
It was probably like the gauge of it was like this big around. It was massive, probably 6 feet long. It was on a gigantic vintage wooden tripod. And it was worth every bit of the $35,000 price tag on it. But you declined to purchase that.
Right, but I was mad at myself because I had left and I didn't get your number. And obviously that's why I was pretending like I could afford the telescope, which I couldn't. But then I saw you later that evening?
Yeah, by coincidence. I was hanging out with some friends in Inman Park, and you were at Fontaine's. And the friends and I had a dinner party at their house. And we all decided to go to Fontaine's, and you never really went to Fontaine's.
Never been there, yeah.
And I never really went to Fontaine's, and it was fate.
And I saw you at the bar, and after I waded through the many men that you were talking to, finally got to you, but you didn't recognize me because I guess I had shaved and wasn't
Right.
wearing sweats. Yep.
And you were very tall. I remember how tall you looked, and you had an overcoat on, and I was wearing some low-rise black Levi jeans that I felt very good in. They were low-rise. It was late 90s.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, so it was a fun night.
And then I tried to ask you out on a date, and you kept giving me the runaround. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so they were on the buying trip, my parents, and my mom always stayed longer because she had family in Europe.
Ah, that's right.
And I knew that my dad was going to be on his own, and the instructions were always in my family. When my mom would stay in Europe, my dad didn't know how to cook, he didn't know how to do his laundry, and I knew I was going to be on helping my dad out duty, and so I made you wait.
You made me wait. And then when I finally got you out to dinner, you started the conversation very interestingly, which I think is a testament to the fact that we're together, but maybe tell a little bit about that story.
I led with the negative, big time. I have Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune, and over the years, if I've had like stress or whatever, it can flare, and so I would have to go on this low residue diet, and it would make it very difficult to order food on menus, and so I felt like I had to make excuses for why I was ordering weird stuff on the menu, and I think, as you like to remind me, since we have our daughter Arden, I think I told you that I didn't think I ever wanted to have kids.
Let me clarify. I don't want kids. I don't drink, and I can't eat most things. That was how you started our first date, but it still turned out wonderful, and we ended up obviously 22 years of marriage, 24 years together. It's been amazing, and many of the fascinating things I find about you are little idiosyncrasies that people might we've talked about find annoying. I find them to be very cute. One of those is your breakfast. I want to get into your breakfast because it is an event at our house. If I have breakfast, which I rarely do, it's a protein bar, it's eggs. You do something different. I think it's pretty interesting that people would want to hear about.
It's like Spanish-style tapas. Yeah. So my mom is Dutch, and in Holland they will put out a lazy Susan on the table, and on the lazy Susan there will be some cheese and some meat and some butter and some beautiful bread, and usually there are two kinds of bread. There might be some sort of wonderful white bread, and then maybe like a nutty sunflower type of bread. And nothing is in huge portions. It's not like a cruise ship buffet situation, but it's a variety. And growing up with my mom's mom, so my Oma and Opa would do this every morning, and they would have this whole spread for breakfast. That shit takes time.
Yeah, and a lot of plates. A lot of plates, and your favorite thing is when we're at a hotel and you can go to a buffet, especially in Europe, where you can have so many plates that you start to put them in front of me so that it doesn't look like you've got that many plates.
Yeah, because I need real estate. But that breakfast takes too much time, and I actually have made a New Year's resolution because with podcasting now, it's taking a lot of my time, and I love it so much, but I feel like I need 4 extra hours every day, and I think a whole hour is consumed by preparing the breakfast. It probably takes 30 or 40 minutes to prepare the breakfast with all of the components, including the tea and trying to be healthy and getting my protein and all of that, and then actually eating it and then cleaning up.
It's a lot.
Actually, maybe I could save 2 hours.
You could save 2 hours, but I would miss it because I love seeing you at the table with all of those things in front of you. I think one time we went to the Dillard house, it's my favorite picture, and you've got all of those plates in front of you, and you're this skinny little girl sitting there with probably enough calories for an entire football team.
But I don't eat all of it.
I know you don't. And that's always been something about you that I never understood. And it fascinates me, since we're talking about that. If I see a cupcake, I have to eat the whole thing. You can cut a quarter of a cupcake and eat it and save the rest for later. It's an amazing, but
I like to have taste, and I don't remember where I heard it, but someone said that if you have a craving for something, if there's something you want to eat, if you can have 2 bites of it, that usually satisfies the craving. And so I guess the bad part of it is wasting food, but the good part of it is I never feel like I'm depriving myself. But it's gotten a little bit out of control.
Yes, but it is awfully cute. And also, you say it's the last bite that makes your tummy hurt. That also came from your Oma, and that's something I have learned from you, as I've learned many things. I always like to say, I didn't know that before I met you. Room temperature butter. I didn't know how good it was. It's my favorite thing in the world. How to properly set a table. The last bite makes your tummy hurt. So lots of amazing lessons I've learned being
I like
married
that
to
you like room temperature butter.
were
you happy that I brought all that butter back from Paris?
I was, but I haven't gotten a chance to taste it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. It will be delicious. It'll absolutely be delicious. So maybe I want to change gears because we talked about us and our backstory and relationship, but I want to talk about one of the things that many people could find annoying. Again, I find it to be quite cute is you talk to everybody as if they're your best friend, and it doesn't matter who it is. Genuine interest in people. I have interest in certain people, not everybody. I'm a little bit more get to know people, but not just excited about it. But I think that led to why you're having success in the podcast world and the nature of why you created this podcast. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
I think that I had a big realization a few years ago when we were in Paris. I think it was 2022 or 2023. And I've always enjoyed talking to strangers and to random people and kind of learning about their situation, because you have these moments in time, like for example, in an Uber or at a counter somewhere where you might not get into a deep conversation, you may never see the person again.
Right.
But I do enjoy that human connection. And like if I'm captive in an Uber, and if we've got a 15 or 20 minute ride, I love talking with the person, whereas you might select talking preferences off.
I've never done that, but it's very clear when I get in the car that the talking preferences are off when they get to meet me.
Yeah, but with me it's the opposite. And I do know, like I sensed over the years that maybe sometimes it's a little irritating, but I think you understand now that it's just part of who I am. And I think my favorite conversation I had was with the tow truck driver when I hit a very large dog on the highway on my way back from Auburn, and had to have the car towed. It was like 11:30 at night. And I was in a tow truck with a man from LaGrange, Georgia, and he had a full face of facial hair, and he was kind of a big burly guy, and it was late at night, and it was a little uncomfortable because I had to be in the tow truck with this stranger for a couple of hours, And I think my chatty nature was in high gear because I was nervous. But I had the most interesting conversation with him. I got to learn what his life was like. This is a tow truck driver in LaGrange, Georgia, in the country. His life is so completely different from my life. And I learned so much about his family's dynamic. And, he adopted his niece because of drug abuse in his family. And I learned about the auction business where his family buys the leftovers from estate sales that nobody wants, and they have a huge sale every Friday night, and it's like the thing they do in their community. And then he told me that they do pigeon wrestling. We were in it's really crazy. We were in the tow truck. It wasn't his tow truck. He was telling me, because I know all these things about him. It wasn't his usual tow truck. It was his buddy's tow truck that he had to borrow because his was broken down. But the air conditioning didn't work, and this was springtime in Alabama. And we couldn't hear very well, or I couldn't hear very well because the windows were partially cracked.
Right.
And he was telling me how on Friday nights they do pigeon wrestling after the big auction.
How does a pigeon wrestle?
And I wanted to know. Don't you know I wanted to know? And so he looks at me and he's like, no, midget wrestling. Oh my God.
Which isn't much better than pigeon wrestling, I guess, but I can envision it.
Well, and then I had
so they do midget wrestling. So your takeaway was you learned a ton from some individual. My takeaway is you got in a car with a stranger and who actually totaled my car by hooking up he hooked up the tow truck wrong and bent the frame, but that's a whole different story.
Oh yeah.
So obviously
but it was so amazing though. I won't ever forget that conversation, obviously, because I'm sitting here recounting it to you. And it just, that little moment in time, that hour I was exhausted, I was frustrated, I was scared.
Yeah.
The adrenaline was pumping from having hit a large dog on the highway. It was not someone's pet, it was a herding dog.
Yeah.
That herds like goats and sheep. I still feel bad about it, I promise. And Arden, our daughter, doesn't let me live it down. I prefer to tell people that I hit a deer, but every time I try to say I hit a
She
deer,
corrects
she likes
you.
to correct me.
She likes to correct you a lot, yeah.
But anyway, that conversation
Yeah.
meant a lot to me. And it was almost like living a real life documentary moment.
Yeah.
And that is the shit that fascinates me. I like getting to know people's stories, especially when they're so incredibly different from my life.
Yeah, well, you do it a lot, and it's not annoying, so I do love it. I especially love it when we're in France and you do it in French. I think that's the most exciting. But so that's the interpersonal. You love people, you love talking. Maybe talk a little bit about kind of what led up to this, because you've done a lot of things. You've done some TV. You worked in the antique store, you were an interior decorator, maybe a little bit of how that all kind of feeds into to this.
So being in my family's antiques business was really fun and interesting. It was a fascinating business. We sold architectural antiques. My dad is 80, my mom is a couple of years younger, and they were in that business for 40 years. And so I grew up around all of those things, and it's an arts and culture type of business, and for my parents and for our whole family, it was a lifestyle business. And because it was such an interesting business, and we were doing more than just like selling old Coca-Cola bottles and teacups, we were selling things that were really big, like
giant telescopes.
The giant telescope.
That people can't afford. No, I'm just kidding.
Things that, like beautiful ornamental iron balconies that people would incorporate into a new construction project, or pieces that were rented for movies and television. And that attracted attention from television producers in the home design space and lifestyle space. And so there were producers over the years that featured our family's business. And so that kind of gave me a little taste of television, and I really enjoyed the experiences we had with that. And then it kind of gave me the dream that I wanted to go into hosting, and somehow merge that with my antiques business background, and that also evolved into interior decorating and my own business. And so I had this dream of, wow, I would love to be able to do this on television. And so I probably had 5 or 6 or 7 opportunities that were really, really exciting, and they didn't pan out, and that was such a bummer. And so podcasting became this this opportunity where I was like, you know what? I have one life. I'm just going to make something like this happen for myself. It may not be related to doing a design show, but it's definitely hosting and talking with people, and I'm really loving it.
Well,
so that's how I got
We're all
here.
so proud of you for doing it,
Thanks.
and those
Thanks
were
for
all
supporting me.
Well, absolutely. Those are all building blocks to get you to where you are, which is, doing something that's very fulfilling. So it's exciting for us. So maybe I'll change gears to Arden, who's such a big part of our lives. And you're a mother, obviously a professional, doing the podcast, doing so many other things for our family. And but Arden, has been a wonder for us, but also there's been challenges, and I think other people might relate to that. Maybe talk a little bit about Arden.
Yeah, gosh, from the get-go. So the pregnancy was great. We had no problem getting pregnant. And the actual process of being pregnant was so exciting and fun, and I loved it, and I think we enjoyed that whole process. And then we had her, and there were challenges with the delivery. And she ended up being in the NICU for 10 days on oxygen cannula. Is that what it's? Cannula?
She was on oxygen,
On oxygen. And had a lot of gross motor delays and the language delays, and had to do PT and OT. And I wasn't working anymore, but it was a lot. It was overwhelming. And I remember we had the nanny.
Yep.
I remember worrying about being judged for having a nanny, even though I didn't have a job. But you were such a supportive husband, because you knew that it was really hard, just.
And I was traveling a ton.
Traveling, yeah, you were traveling a lot, but it was a lot, just the day in, day out, and we had the ability to do it, and so it was really nice to have the whole family. Whenever everyone was around, everyone was wonderfully supportive, but for the day-to-day, it was really such a lovely opportunity to have a companion, going to physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and then came the scoliosis, and at the same time the learning challenges. And she's a strong girl. She is.
She's incredibly resilient, doing great at Auburn, and we're so proud of her. But we did have the period where she had to wear a brace, and and she had surgery, and that was probably for us, maybe our toughest time as a couple dealing with a major spinal fusion surgery, and nobody talks about the parents, right, and how we deal with pain and something like that. So I don't know if you want to share anything about that experience.
Knowing that we had to support, at the time Arden was 14, so we had to support our 14-year-old, getting her like mentally prepared for a big scary surgery, and we got to back up. I mean, she was always the sweet little thing for whom a little scrape or a boo-boo on the knee or like a flu shot was a big deal. She's always been very averse to pain, and so we were freaking the F out, you and I, worrying about, oh my God, how is she going to handle the pain of this surgery? So spinal fusion surgery for adults is something that we hear a lot about, and it's apparently a very grueling situation for adults to go through. For kids, it is also grueling, but kids handle the surgery and are far more resilient. Apparently, I guess just by being younger, it is a surgery that kids seem to handle better. So not to say that it was easy, it was not. It was very, very difficult for her, and I remember it being challenging for us. And so you and I have different strengths. Yeah. And you have such a strong empathy piece and patience piece. And even though I'm sweet and nice and I talk to the Uber driver and I'm nice to people all day long and bring cookies to people, I really struggled with the patience part of the pain. Yeah. And then that was a really difficult thing for me as a mom, because I felt like, oh my gosh, I am the worst mom. Yeah, but I think I had the empathy piece, but you want people to help themselves, and I think, to me, it's your belief is, are they doing everything for themselves because you want to solve it, you want to help solve it, whereas sometimes I would just sit back and say, okay, she's in pain, I'm just going to be there, and yours was, okay, she's in pain, there's a solution. It's almost like the gender roles were flipped a little, because I think people think. Well, I had a Jewish mother, so what can I say? When you have a Jewish mother, you learn how to. Well, thank God Arden had one of us that was because you were about the whole
That's
situation,
not true. That's not true. You were very warm. I think it was more about you wanted to solve it for her, and I think that's how you dealt with it. Versus me understanding there was no solution. Time was the only solution, and so I think she was lucky to have both of us. Well, absolutely, and thank God that you were able to take the time off of work to be able to do that, and we balanced each other well. I think it was like the major recovery period for our situation, for our family, is different for every family who has a child that goes through spinal fusion surgery, but it was like a 2.5 week grueling period where we were dealing with our daughter being in so much pain. And thank goodness you were able to spend so much time and work from home too once it was time for you to get back to work, so that we could balance each other. We were very balanced. And obviously it all worked out well, and she turned out, she kicked ass. She kicked ass. She got back to basketball and volleyball and is doing great in college, and so we did something right together. Yeah, well, and she fascinates us. Yes, she does. And she's like, Mama. For a later episode. She's like, Mama, I want to come on your show and talk about my journey. And I said, absolutely. That would be wonderful. That's going to be an interesting one. That would be wonderful. Well, listen, she's a wonderful girl, and she takes after you, so in a lot of ways.
And now we'll take a moment for the giving intermission. Don't fast forward. Your karma is watching. Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. There are places that become part of your family's story, not because you planned it that way, but because life led you there. And for us, that place has been Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. Our relationship with CHOA began when my daughter was a toddler. She had gross motor delays and required speech and occupational therapy. And from those earliest years, we were surrounded by clinicians who showed not only deep expertise, but patience, kindness, and genuine care. At age 7, Arden was diagnosed with scoliosis, and by 10, she began wearing a scoliosis brace. From 10 to 14, that brace became part of her daily life, and at 14, she underwent spinal fusion surgery through the spine program at Children's. Those years meant countless appointments, fittings, imaging, check-ins, and moments of uncertainty, but also reassurance, encouragement, and trust. We were supported every step of the way by people who understood not just the medical side of scoliosis, but the emotional weight it carries for a child and their family. So now Arden's 20, healthy, strong, and thriving, and soon she's going to age out of the pediatric world that embraced her for so many years. As we approach that transition, our gratitude feels even deeper. Children's Healthcare of Atlanta didn't just care for our daughter during one chapter, they walked with her through many, from toddlerhood, through adolescence, and through a life-changing surgery and beyond. Supporting programs like the spine program at CHOA means helping families navigate complex diagnoses, long treatment journeys, and critical moments with expert care and compassion. It means investing in the specialists, therapists, nurses, and support teams who change the trajectory of children's lives every single day. If you're looking for a cause to support, we can tell you firsthand, the impact is real, lasting, and deeply personal. We will always be grateful. Please go to www.choa.org.
We've had other challenges like, I'm a private pilot, and you were deathly afraid of flying after 9/11. And maybe talk about how, because not that would have been a problem, but it's tough when your husband's main hobby you're petrified of, and
that really sucked.
It would suck, right? It's kind of like I don't want to have kids, I can't drink, and I don't eat, like a kind of a bummer in a relationship. But you thought it was important enough to you to be able to do it, and so maybe talk about how you got over a major phobia like that.
Like I am not someone who struggles with anxiety necessarily, although Joel, my producer, might beg to differ. But really haven't had any major fears or anxieties in my life except with the fear of flying that occurred after 9/11. So for me, I was, with all the media coverage, it was very difficult for me to turn my brain off and stop thinking about, it makes me want to cry right now thinking about everyone's last moments and how scary that must have been for everyone. Whew, sorry. And so that really manifested into an absolute fear of flying, which I had never had before because I had flown so much, domestically and internationally growing up. And so I could not handle being on an airplane without freaking out and actually having panic attacks. And you were a bit of a jerk for taking up flying.
Well, I was actually, to be completely clear,
was the timing?
I was flying when we met. I hadn't, but I continued to push forward with it, even though I knew you were afraid of it.
Yeah. And I'm glad you did, because it did. It's not like it's not like I would have been able to avoid flying, or if I did, that would have really robbed a huge piece of my enjoyment in life, being married to you, someone who loves to travel. So thank goodness I didn't end up being the type of person that needs to just travel by train or car or boat.
But you did get help with it.
I did get help with it. And so I remember seeking out, I haven't thought about this stuff in a long time. Thanks for bringing this up, sweetie.
Well, listen, you gave me complete amnesty here, so I could get away with anything.
And now I have the sniffles. Anyhow, I sought out a doctor for the fear of flying, and it was interesting. He was a specialist in gastric bypass surgery. It was weird, but he would do deep relaxation techniques as part of that specialty in his practice, which apparently would also apply to helping people conquer phobias.
Okay.
I think for the gastric bypass patients, in order to check people off to have that surgery, they had to have some sort of psychological testing. And anyway,
right.
So I remember I would have those sessions, those typical sessions in a psychiatrist's office where you're laying on the couch, and he would help me rationalize my fears, and he taught me some deep relaxation techniques that I actually share with friends. Like I have a couple of friends who are very nervous about flying, and sometimes this one friend whom I won't name, but she's one of my BFFs, she'll text me from the plane and she'll say, "Julie, we're going through the worst turbulence right now. I think I'm going to die. Please make sure you tell daughter who shall remain unnamed, and husband who shall remain unnamed, that I love them. Like she'll seriously send me a
Right.
text like that. And then I'll tell her what he taught me. And so the deep relaxation techniques involved tensing your feet and then relaxing them, and then tensing your calves and relaxing them, tensing your knees, and so on and so forth, all the way up your body, even to your face. And you can do this by yourself on an airplane. You might look like a freak. Once you get to the face part, no one's gonna know when you're tightening the lower body stuff. But by the time you have finished doing that, the tensing and the relaxing, you've had to focus on doing that. You have had the physical patterns and physical sensation and strengthening, process of that. And by the time you go from toe to head, you've tricked your body out of the fear moment. Yeah. And it has worked for me so well, and it works for my friends very well. But then the other part of it was with Arden, because this fear came on when she was so little. Boy, for someone who doesn't want to talk a lot about herself.
Well, this is about you, so you're allowed to answer some questions.
But when it came to Arden, at the time she was a baby, I knew that I did not want to transfer this fear to her. Because you and I have talked before, our little opinion, our judgy opinion that we have sometimes about what we observe out in the wilderness with families. Yeah. I think we feel like sometimes children can develop anxieties just
absolutely from the parents. And she loves to fly, by the way, and she's been a great co-pilot because of that.
Yeah, I mean, she'll literally sit right seat with you. That kid has no fear.
No fear of that.
And I love that. But it was so important to me. I did not want to make her have the same problem that I did, breathing in a bag.
Yeah, well, and you got over it, and you love flying with me. And when we go to the airport for a commercial flight, I assume you'd rather fly with me than a commercial pilot.
Oh, sure.
But you are probably the most relaxed person at a commercial airport. And what I mean by that, and every man can probably attest to this, is you tend to pick odd times to get food or go to the bathroom. It's usually when they're boarding the flight. I've always wondered, is that just relaxation or just trying to needle me when you know that I'm an A-type personality and I want to get on the plane?
Maybe it feels like I'm trying to needle you. I'm not. I have a feeling that probably, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm glad.
Okay, so I think having to go to the bathroom is probably because, there's still a little part of me, an underlying fear, nervous, right? Yeah. So it's nervous. It's a nervous behavior where I feel like I just have to.
And nobody wants to go to the bathroom on a plane.
Right, that sucks. And then I want to go shopping because
you just love shopping at an airport.
I love shopping at an airport, and who doesn't love spending, $30 on a bottle of water and a pack of gum and a magazine?
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, I had to ask.
I've been known to show up a little bit late when you're boarding. You like to be the first person to board, so that you don't have to check your bags. And maybe I should make that another New Year's resolution. No, you don't need to. I find it, again, it's one of those things that somebody could find annoying, but I find it to be, it is annoying at the time, let me be completely honest, because I travel a lot and you got to get the bag up, otherwise you're fighting over bag space, especially, so that's all. Yeah, but sorry, more to why am I so relaxed? I think I'm overcompensating. I think I'm really,
you're not, you don't want any tension.
I don't want to feel stressed or rushed, and so I drag shit out.
So maybe that's for me to understand that when we're flying together.
Okay.
Another situation I find hilarious for someone who is so well-spoken and sophisticated, I do think you're very sophisticated in how you present yourself, is when we go to a comedy show, and you love comedy shows, and I know you've had some guests that are great comedians, but you are the loudest person at the comedy show. You are the target not because you're heckling, but because you just lose all control over your laughter. So what is it with you and humor? And particularly, there's certain types of humor you really like. I'm not going to say it. I'll let you say it if you want to. You love bathroom humor.
Yeah, potty humor.
So what is it about all that, and why do you feel like you let yourself go and loose when it comes to comedy?
Maybe I'm a little buttoned up. Yeah. And then maybe it's just a big release, and then I don't have an off switch. But the same goes for if I'm on the other end of the spectrum crying in a movie, I can't turn that off either. Yeah. I need some emotional regulation.
Well, I think people should have the experience of going to a comedy show with you, but you got to make sure that you want to be part of the show because you laugh, and it is don't be embarrassed. It's a belly laugh. It's a
chortle.
It's a chortle. That's a great word. It is like your whole body is enjoying it, and you do love your bathroom humor. You crack up at that for whatever reason. You just love it, which is not something.
You know why? I love my mom, but growing up, we couldn't say words like fart. We were not supposed to talk that way. And we couldn't say, I hate such and such. It would be, oh, no thank you, I don't care for coffee. Like not, I hate coffee, I don't care for coffee. And so I think being well-spoken comes from my mom, because my mom is an elegant woman and she's sophisticated, she's European. We grew up in a household where, you speak about things correctly and you do things correctly and you're considerate of other people. And then I've kind of, in a lot of ways, like I don't hold back when it comes to I don't like to curse around my mom. But I think I do like to let go of some of that.
But you've kept a lot of her European teachings.
Yeah, it's a mix.
And it is, I think part of who you are as a person, and then maybe that, like you said, that's your release to be completely ridiculous, but I love it.
Yeah.
And anybody who you're friends with who gets the opportunity should definitely go to a comedy show.
I like to laugh.
So, one of the things that you say to me, and I call it gallows humor, but that's, a term for gallow, like, you're at the gallows getting executed. But it's humor around that. Is you always talk to me about, and not so much lately, but you used to talk about who's invited and who's not invited to your funeral.
Oh.
The music you want, the food you want, and specifically, that person's not coming to my funeral.
Yeah.
Maybe talk about, because it's such an odd sense of humor for you, because like you said, your European upbringing, prim and proper. And you love people so much, but when someone is not invited to your funeral, that's a serious thing.
If someone has crossed me, or if someone has crossed our daughter.
Yeah, they get disinvited.
Yeah, so there will be a bouncer at my funeral. And my friend Landria is going to be in charge of the music.
Okay.
There will be French fries.
No mayonnaise?
There will be a big freaking vat of mayonnaise.
Okay.
So Justin doesn't like mayonnaise. He really hates it. The mayonnaise will stay on my side of the room. I think I should be cremated, so next to my urn there can be an urn of mayonnaise.
That's disgusting.
Maybe. You know what though? If you're out of respect to you, maybe there should not be any mayonnaise.
No, it's okay. You could have mayonnaise at your funeral, but there's a list. In fact, the problem is the list I have is people not invited. So I guess assume everybody else is invited, but the list.
Yeah, everybody else is invited, and it's a small list of people who are not invited.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Well,
I'm not the only one. I think I have a friend or two who also kind of thinks about their funeral.
Well, you had music. Yeah. You selected music. You selected. So maybe I'd love to talk about your biggest hobby besides, podcasting is your passion, but I'd like to talk about tennis, but not so much tennis, but the sisterhood that you've developed, because I've seen you develop a group of friends that are so important to you that it's been impressive, and then obviously you travel together, but it's so important to you.
Yeah.
Maybe talk about maybe why and what because maybe you didn't have that growing up?
I mean, I played tennis growing up. I played probably, when we first moved to Atlanta, I was 10. And so I started playing on ALTA, the Atlanta Lawn Tennis Association, at 10 or 12 years old. And then I played in high school on the high school team. And then I put it away and didn't play in college. It wasn't good enough to play in college either. So, but as an adult, I think, I was just into exercising via running and being outside.
We had that little recumbent bike when I met you.
Oh yeah. And that recumbent bike was a joke.
Yeah.
I would just sit on that bike, sit back and just really slowly ride and look at a magazine. I don't think I was getting any exercise. I was a little fluffier when we first met.
I don't remember that.
I don't know. But anyhow, when we joined the country club. Tennis was something that was on my radar because I knew how to play, and I figured it was going to be like riding a bike. I could probably get back into it. And it was really amazing because we had never belonged to any kind of a club before, and we don't go to church, so we don't have a sense of community in the way a lot of families do. We had, community in our neighborhood and with a group of friends, but as far as like a formalized club situation, we didn't really have that experience. And so when we joined Ansley Golf Club, all of a sudden, people were interested. Who's this new girl? Who's this new guy? For you, golf, and for me, tennis. And I just really clicked with this tennis group, and women wanted to meet me, and I just felt so welcomed. And I had never really had that experience with a large group of women before, and it was very exciting.
You were not in a sorority.
I was not in a sorority, and I also mostly, I guess, like in high school and college, I had some girlfriends, but not a million, and I had a lot of friends who were guys. And I think I didn't really know how to be a girl's girl, and I think I learned pretty late in life. So I don't know, were we 40 when we joined the club?
Probably, yeah.
I'm really late to the game, and I learned how to be a girlfriend and learned how all of this girlfriend community stuff works very recently.
Yeah, well, you love doing things for the group and having the group down to the house and making sandwiches, and you're into all of it. So she's the sandwich girl. I think they use a different word, right?
Yeah, they do. The sandwich beat.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's, so.
But I love hosting those tennis trips. We go down to the beach a lot to play, and the tennis trips are usually a core group, but sometimes there are different women who go. And
I think there are members of your tennis team that have stayed at our house more than I have.
I think you're right.
It's possible given the, but I love it.
You're right. The wear and tear on the beach house.
Oh, I think it's okay. You're getting the enjoyment out of it. That's the most
I love that you
thing.
support it.
I do support it. So we talked about your friends. We talked about Arden. The other love is Remy, your dog.
Remy boo.
And you're definitely an animal person, but I don't know if you grew up with dogs, but you
always grew up with Vizslas.
Yeah, and Remy's a Vizsla, but we did have a Great Dane, Rocco, who was wonderful, but he was like having livestock in the house.
Yeah.
And as an interior decorator, it wasn't probably the best. That was my folly, right? That was me wanting the big dog, but maybe, when we got Remy, I do remember getting some calls like, take this dog back to because he was a little crazy, as Vizslas can be.
Yeah.
But maybe talk about Remy, and because you have such a special relationship. And you take a lot of pictures of him, people are aware.
Yeah. Remy, for a long time, everyone was saying, Remy needs his own Instagram. I'm having a hard enough time with my own Instagram. I don't think I'm ever going to have a Remy Instagram, but he has his own little part of the She Fascinates Me Instagram. He's a sweet boy, and I love having a dog as a companion. It was hard on the front end, that patience piece. I mean, you're the one who spends time training, or you were back when we were training. You would do the repetitive stuff to really be patient with him and work with him. And I just wanted to stick that shock collar on that dog. And
but now he can do no wrong, right? You have learned patience.
He's the king.
Yeah, you definitely learned patience. He's wonderful, and you're for a while before the podcast. Every picture you took was on Facebook, so it was, and he does photograph quite well. So.
He does, and he's sweet when I'm recording episodes. If I'm sitting right here and if I've got a chair next to me, he'll be right there, and he'll just be quiet the whole time. And maybe sometimes he might start to lick himself, and I'll have to push pause.
It adds to the session. So, well, he likes to sit with me at work too, and sometimes I'll be on a call, very serious call, and you'll just see this dog head come up on my lap and look at the camera. It's a lot of fun. He's such a sweetie. So
he's a good guy.
We talked about all the things that led up to the podcast, but one of the things that fascinates me about you, and you said you're not patient. But you are one of the people that gets shit done. Can I use the word shit? I'll use it. More than anyone. Like if I need something done, even though in business I get stuff done, you're the one that gets it done.
Here's how it really works. You'll mention it, and I have to grab my phone immediately, otherwise I forget. And I'm like, boop, 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 And you're like, sweetie, you don't have to do it right now. I'm like, no, you don't understand. If I don't put it on my phone right now, it won't get done.
See, but my fear isn't that you're putting it in your phone, because it used to be you were dialing the number before I even got, because you're so regimented on taking action and getting it done.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
From my dad. I think in the family business, when you're running a family business and you don't have a bunch of employees, it's just like, it was my mom and my dad and myself. But before I started in the business, it was just the two of them. And so you can't let things pile up. And now it's hard, because as I've been talking to you recently, like with perimenopause, my focus, just from hormone changes, is making that getting things done piece harder. Like, I'm still getting things done, but it's a lot harder to get organized. So,
well, if there's something difficult to get done, a difficult interaction, and people may or may not relate to this. Like, I don't mind confrontation, but I do so much during work, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
You seem to not mind it.
Well, I don't like to. Not confrontation, like in a.
No, in a pleasant way, but you're dealing with things that could be confrontational.
That some people might avoid.
You take it head on.
Yeah, just do it. Yeah, just get in there and do it.
Is that's from your working with your dad in the store and having to do it in a nice way that attracts, like what bees get more honey, this sort of thing?
Yeah, and I think all respect to my dad. I mean, he did such an amazing job of running his business and building his business, and all the ups and downs of having your own business. I think the takeaway from me spending all those years in the business with him and observing, he had a little bit more of an edge, I think, sometimes in situations, and I had to soften that in order for me to do what he was trying to teach me to do and groom me to do in business. I had to do it with my own personal style, which I think a lot of that came from my mom. So sometimes when there's something that really has to get done, I'll start, soft with it, make sure the person feels disarmed, right?
Right.
Knowing that whatever I'm about to talk to them about is, I'm going to be kind and fair, but let's get it done.
Is that what you do with me?
Maybe.
Is that how you get?
Oh no, you figured me out.
I know. It only took 24 years to figure you out. So one of the things that you and I love doing together is traveling, and we've had some great trips. Maybe talk a little bit about what's been your favorite thing that we've done together as a family, or just the two of us. Our
trip to Japan with Arden was amazing. That was just such an incredible experience, being so far away from home, and I've, with you and before you, I've done so much travel around Europe, so it's amazing to go somewhere so different. But I really loved that trip to Munich. I honestly, when, it's our first like empty nester type of trip where I went with you for business.
For business.
And that was just really exciting. I loved it. I don't know that I ever dreamt about going to Munich, Germany, but it was me trying something new, which is sometimes a little hard for me. I like going to places that are familiar, especially with the French language. I like going to countries where I can use my French. And it's a little weird being in a country with a language barrier, Japan and Germany, but it's still fun. And so I have to push myself to try new places.
What about Japan was the most?
I loved that.
Yeah. What about Japan was the most amazing thing to you?
What I loved about Japan was, it was broken into 3 parts. So Kyoto was kind of a way to ease into the trip, and we had that tour guide she was young and she was gentle and sweet and kind, and then in the middle of the trip we did Hakone, and we had oh my gosh, you're laughing, I know why you're laughing. In Hakone, which is like the rainforest region, there was a retired Japanese gentleman who was our tour guide.
Very regimented, I remember.
He was, and I went in for a hug.
So Julie didn't realize that was not cultural, but she didn't care. And you didn't care afterwards and he liked that hug. To this day,
I don't know if he liked it. I don't know if I've ever hugged a person who
didn't
was
hug back.
So stiff and didn't hug back.
But you liked it, so that's all that matters.
Well, selfishly so, yeah. And then the third part of that trip was in Tokyo, and our tour guide was an Israeli expat, and she looked like Sarah Jessica Parker, and her style was so urban cool. I loved her. And so just what I loved, gosh, I mean, the way you've been talking to me in this whole conversation about people and personalities. I mean, I loved being in Japan. I loved the food. I loved the sights and all of that. But, oh my God, now that I'm talking about it, I loved the personalities of the people.
Absolutely, and I knew that's what you would say. That's what I hoped you would say, because you often talked about the tour guides and the different approach
that
that
they
took.
That is always what I lead with when I tell people about that trip. Oh my gosh.
And the first one, like you said, we were in kind of the traditional place in Japan. The second one was around art. We went through that, and then the third one,
that outdoor museum.
The outdoor museum, and then the third one was giving you the perspective of what it was like to live in Tokyo. Because as a guest, it's beautiful, right? The service is amazing, the food's amazing, but what is it like to live there?
I remember having all those conversations with her. I wish I could remember her name, but I should reach out to her because she would be incredible to have on the show.
Absolutely, she was.
But yeah, I remember she was talking about how, as a young mother, she had her, I think, like 3 or 4 year old daughter in a preschool program in Tokyo, and her experience as an expat mom.
Tell the bento box story.
Gosh, she was talking to us about how the Japanese moms would send their little children to this preschool with their bento boxes for lunch, and she would observe that the detail, the attention to detail in the bento boxes was such a symbol of the parents' love for the child. And there was I think she was conveying to us that there was a little bit of judgment.
Oh, absolutely.
From other parents if that wasn't.
And the other kids, it's how much your parents would love you.
And the kids would compare.
They would compare. So there was a lot of interesting insights. But I knew that whereas I loved the fact that people were so considerate of space. There was nobody on their cell phone.
Right.
On speaker.
Right. Nobody was loud.
Nobody was loud. People gave you your space.
Yeah, and this was pre-pandemic when we were there, but
we loved it. And obviously the food and the culture is amazing. But I agree with you. That was probably our greatest trip. But it was great to have you in Munich too. And you came to a work dinner. And that was so neat to combine your worlds. Well, so we covered a lot. And this has been great for me.
It was like pew.
I apologize, but it was an interrogation.
No,
I didn't use any enhanced techniques, so we're all good to go. But maybe let's end with, we talked about at the beginning about the podcast and the why, and maybe it would be great to hear about what do you hope comes out of this? Like, at the end of the day, what is your goal around doing something that, by the way, is an incredible amount of work, and I've seen it and I'm very impressed with it, but it brings you a lot of joy.
It does. And so, I mean, from the pure selfish perspective of it, it is something really fun to do that I love. It makes me very happy. It feels very fulfilling to be working again, because after retiring from interior decorating and just spending so much more time with Arden from middle school through getting her, launched in college, I realized, whoa, I really want to be working again, and I want to do something professional, and I want to do it well. And just, I love having the whole process of it, and getting to work with Joel, and coming up with content and the total vision for it. I feel like I've accidentally fallen into this women's empowerment zone, because that's never anything I've really truly identified myself with, but I'm finding that, oh my gosh, I happen to know a lot of women who also know a lot of wonderful women, and we all have really great stories to tell. And so it's what I hope for it to be is just this vehicle for connection and community. And I love when people tell me that they love that the episodes are between 30 and 45 minutes long, and they can just plug them in from start to finish when they have pockets of their day. Women are feeling like the conversations are really good quality conversations, and they're enjoying relating to the women. And I guess I just love connecting people. And so I just want it to move forward in a way that helps people feel connected, maybe validated, or encouraged to do something that they've always wanted to do. And I just feel like by continuing to do so myself, I am proving that it's safe to do that.
Well,
I don't know if I articulated that very well.
You did. You've articulated it very well, and I'm so proud of you, and I am impressed by what you've been able to do, And I love the stories that you're telling. Even as a man listening to the ones that you've done, they're all different, they're all interesting, there's all lessons to be learned and information to take out of them. So I think you're doing a great thing for you and for everybody else.
You know, a podcast like this, when you are doing more than just talking into a microphone and recording it on your phone, and when you're having it produced professionally, it costs money to do so. And it was just a gift. I think it was a couple of years ago when you gave me a gift for my birthday to go into a music studio to practice what I thought I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to just perfect my voice for singing, not to have a record or anything like that, just because I enjoy singing.
You were interested in it.
And I wanted to see if I could get good at it like tennis. I just wanted to see if I could train my voice. And I realized after, I think, 6 months of those vocal lessons that I didn't like it.
Yeah.
And this was another way to use my voice, and probably a way better, more
Well, you
pleasant
made a
way.
conscious decision, I remember when you, but you didn't tell me this costs money.
Anyway.
Anyway.
It's just really nice to have such a supportive husband, and you've encouraged me to do this. And
Well, you've always supported me in my success, and
Thanks.
I could never have done it without you, and so it's time for you to do what you love, and I'm supportive and I'm here for you.
I love you.
Love you too.
Thank you, sweetie.
You're welcome.
This was fun.
This was fun.
Okay, guys. Justin put me in the hot seat, and that's enough of that. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're here at the end, you're exactly who this show is for. Creating She Fascinates Me and watching the first season unfold has seriously been one of the most gratifying experiences of my life, both personally and professionally. What began as an idea turned into something real, and along the way, I learned just how powerful it can be to slow down and listen. Finding out that the show now sits in the top 20% of Spotify video podcasts blew me away, and it was proof that trusting an idea and following it through works. You might have noticed that not every story that you hear on my show is salacious, gossipy, or earth-shattering, and that's totally intentional. To be fascinated by someone doesn't require your jaw to drop. Sometimes fascination looks like admiration. Sometimes it's pride in knowing someone, and sometimes it's simply recognizing yourself in another woman's story. We're so conditioned to pay attention to the loudest narratives, and while those stories have their place, what I care about most is connection. Feeling connected to women who feel familiar, while being reminded of how beautifully different we all are. Because a thoughtful conversation, when you truly listen, is so satisfying, right? So do me a favor. Please follow or subscribe wherever you watch or listen. Leave a rating if you're inclined, and come find me at She Fascinates Me. I'm so glad you're here.